to our third episode of Grammar with Mrs. Gillespie. By now you should have watched the first two episodes. You watched one on Monday. You watched, which was the review, which we're going to go over in just a few minutes. You watched the second one on Tuesday. You may have watched it again on Wednesday. You did an assignment on Wednesday, the one with the second episode. And today we're going to do a third one, and I'm going to explain what you need to do on Google Classroom after this video. Okay, so let me just review. Hopefully you can see in the video our posters that we've been going over. These first two are the ones we already went over. So just as a review, on Monday we talked about the parts of speech. We talked about how common nouns are just regular things like a person, place, or thing, or an animal like a dog or a cat, a person like a zookeeper, those kind of things. Proper nouns are specific nouns, like so a specific dog or a specific place like the Cincinnati Zoo. We talked about verbs, which are actions that you do. Anything that you can do is a verb, like go swimming, that would be a verb. And then we talked about adjectives, which are words that describe a noun. So they give us more information about the noun. Then on Tuesday, and you may have watched it on Wednesday, we talked about adjectives that compare. And this was also a review. We did this before we were off of school. We talked about adjectives that compare. So they are adjectives that compare how one thing is compared to something else. How it if it's taller, or shorter, or higher than something else. So we went over some examples like tall, taller, and tallest. So if you remember, we talked about how you can compare just two nouns, or you can compare one noun with everything else. Okay, so when I was in high school, they said I was the tallest girl. So that means I was taller than all the other girls in my class. Okay? And we went over some examples. You did an activity on Google Classroom, or hopefully by now you've done the activity on Google Classroom and turned that in. Okay? The third thing that we're going to talk about today is now we're going to talk about adverbs. And adverbs we haven't really talked about a lot this year. An adverb is a word that describes how something is happening or when it's happening. It describes the verb. Adjectives describe the noun. Adverbs describe the verb. Okay, so adverbs tell us when, where, or how something happens. Okay, and they can also be used to compare actions. Okay, and we're going to look at some examples if that's not quite making sense. But just like remember with the adjectives that compare, we talked about how we can add ER to compare two nouns, and we can add EST to compare one noun with all the other nouns. Same thing with adverbs. We add ER to compare two actions, okay? So if we're comparing the action of like fast or faster, right? She ran fast, he ran faster than her. Okay, those are two actions that we're comparing by two different people about how, and it could be the same person too. I could say I ran fast, and then I could say I will run faster tomorrow. I'm the one doing all the actions, but it's comparing of when or how fast I'm running each time. Then we can add EST to compare more than two actions, right? Just like we could add EST to compare two or more nouns, this we can add EST to compare more than two actions. So if I say I ran the fastest today the entire week, that means I ran the fastest today than all the other 7 days I went running. Okay? So let's look at some examples. So if something happened late, right? I turned in my homework late, okay? Or I turned in my homework later than someone else, right? So you both turned in your homework late, but one of you was later than the other person. Or if I want to say I was the last to turn in my homework, I turned in my homework the latest out of everyone in the class. Means I was the very last person to turn it in, okay? Hard, harder, or hardest. It is hard to run 1 mile. It is harder to run 2 miles. So it's harder to run 2 miles than it is to run 1 mile. It is the hardest to run like 26 miles, right? That's the hardest of all the miles. That's the hardest, okay? Fast, faster, and fastest. We just talked about examples of like. And let's look at some more examples with fast, faster, and fastest. He ran fast. Okay, so it's describing how he ran. He ran fast. He did not run slow. He ran fast. She ran faster than he did. So that's comparing actions of two different people, right? So two different actions. One is faster than the other. I ran the fastest. So that's saying I ran faster than everyone else. Okay, we all ran fast, but I ran the fastest of everyone. Okay, so under this video, you should see a link for another Google Docs activity. It should look just like the one that we did yesterday, but this time you're going to be using adverbs. So you're going to be looking and trying to figure out what is the best adverb to put in a sentence. So you want to look and see what they're comparing. Are they comparing two actions, or are they comparing one action with a bunch of other actions? So I want you to think about that. And just like with adjectives, we talked about how many nouns are being compared. I want you to think about with adverbs, how many actions, how many verbs are being compared. Okay, how many different actions are being compared at once. And that will help you figure out if you're going to add ER to the word or EST. Okay? If you have any questions, you can let me know. But other than that, I think that's it. So I hope you enjoyed grammar this week with me. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. Have a great day, guys. Bye.